Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference channel. My name is Jesse Day. We are bringing the VRIC to you each and every week with our series of expert online panels. And it's been a while since we talked about uranium, so I'm very excited for the panel we have lined up for you today. We have notable uranium investor who is 100% invested in the sector, Terry Papineau, and Fabi Lara of the Next Big Rush. We're going to be discussing a number of both bullish trends as well as controversies in the uranium sector at present. It's great to have you both on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me as well. I'm not sure notable is the right word, maybe crazy, but and I'd also like to say cheers from Montreal, Quebec.
Excellent. Well, we've got Quebec represented. We have Portugal represented from Fabi and myself in Serbia. So this is truly an international interview. And I want to start with a broad question on the uranium sector. And that is, what are the main themes and trends that you think more investors should be paying attention to right now when it comes to uranium? And Terry, I'll start with you on this one.
Sure. Well, I think the main theme is really the confirmation of the thesis is really playing out. We've been talking about this for years now. It's the supply demand story. It's an imbalance, and the story is just getting better in that regards with regards to the supply is the risk is really all on the supply side. The demand side is growing with very little risk to it, and it's growing quite in a healthy fashion. And governments throughout the world are really endorsing nuclear. I think that's another theme with regards to a real renaissance in nuclear. And that's going to be bolstered by another theme, which is small advanced modular reactors, which, the province of Ontario broke ground in December in building an SMR. There's an agreement that was reached a few weeks ago where the province of Saskatchewan wants to, that agreement also includes Cameco and Westinghouse. They really want to, move forward and build one in Saskatchewan. Bill Gates and TerraPower broke ground in Wyoming to build one of TerraPower's natrium reactors there. So, the other theme is, and I don't want to, steal all of Fabi's thunder, but the AI, what we're hearing with regards to artificial intelligence, the data centers where these are just power hungry centers, and they need reliable 24/7 power. So they're really looking at setting up these small modular reactors to power the data centers. So the thesis is playing out even better than what we could have envisioned 4 or 5 years ago. And so right now we're in a lull, and it's kind of like a consolidation phase. And I'm just really looking forward to the next leg up.
Yeah, absolutely. And excellent point about governments embracing nuclear. This is the new nuclear renaissance. Anybody who doesn't realize that has not been paying attention. The thesis keeps getting stronger. The push for nuclear keeps getting stronger. Arnold Schwarzenegger joining in the fray recently, condemning Germany for not for shutting off their reactors, which I thought was quite humorous. However, as you mentioned, we're in a bit of a lull. Uranium stocks have taken somewhat of a beating as we record this episode. The thing is, a lot of people seem to lament the day-to-day price action when it comes to social media. They lose focus on the long-term thesis. Obviously, commodities, uranium is no exception, are very volatile. But I think the long-term trend is to the upper right of the screen when it comes to prices. I'm wondering if you see this as a buying opportunity, Fabi. What are your thoughts there?
Well, in short, yes, that's it. No, let me expand on that. So I think what most investors miss, and if I'm not careful, I would fall into this category as well. Like, I'm not some super, illuminated investor that never makes some mistakes, far from it. But I think what people are missing is, just like Terry has mentioned, the story itself has never been better. And I can't wait. I can't believe I'm still saying this, probably 2 years into saying the same thing again. But I never thought that it would get this good, and it's getting better. So every month, every quarter, I come back and I look at the thesis as a whole and see, wow, look at all of these points that are, pulling us forward in the demand side, and all of these issues, believe it or not, that are happening on the supply side. Things have never been better with any other commodity that I have ever seen. Not that I'm, 100 years old, but I've never seen numbers and forecasts and even a current situation like what we have in uranium. So yes, the fundamentals are very much intact, and not just intact, but they're getting better with every, quarter or so, at least. The other thing is, I think investors get a little bit upset, understandably, when we look at how to invest in uranium. So there is, I guess, two ways of doing it. You can either try to invest in the physical uranium through SPUT or something like it, or you can invest in the stocks. Now, historically, the stocks have done really, really well, as long as, and this is a big fat asterisk I want to add here, as long as you hold them until the mania phase. That's what a lot of people don't understand. The only thing that really matters is your entry point and your exit point, and how long that took. And then you can compare that yearly with whatever indicator you want to compare it with. And then you can say, yeah, this was a really good investment or speculation over time. And if the thesis is getting better, there's no reason why you'd be, either jumping in and out, unless you're a great trader, not the case, or you'd leave the thesis if it's getting better, but the price has not followed it. And when I say the price, the price of the actual stocks. Now, the stocks, they're under the influence of a few other factors and not just the price of the commodity. So if you think that the commodity itself will go up in value, but you're not really sure about the stocks, it's okay to just invest in SPUT. We are neutral to whether people want to invest in, maybe a junior miner that's, on the verge of making a discovery or on the verge of producing. It doesn't matter. It's each individual investor needs to make that call. But it goes back to, is the price even flattening out? We went from 18 to 105, 107, and then came back down a bit. But this is very much still a market. And I think people need to look at the whole thesis and ask themselves, are they the type of investor that is willing to wait it out until the mania phase, until we get maybe some media attention and enough investor attention, speculation attention, that something goes double, triple, quadruple within a couple of months. And that does happen quite often in the mining world. Hasn't happened recently, but there's no reason why it won't happen again, because that's what the market always does. It always overshoots on the upside and on the downside as well. So if there's a disconnect and the story is getting better in any commodity, not just in uranium, I'd say, yeah, usually bar just something very, very strange happening, like another COVID or something like that, then I would say, yeah, a buying opportunity for sure.
And Terry, your thoughts, is this maybe a good entry position for those who haven't yet entered the sector, or those who feel that they're underweight when it comes to uranium?
Yeah, a lot of experts, talk about a commodity, bull cycle or super cycle, and that, there's nothing goes up straight like a hockey stick. There are pullbacks along the way, and when there are some pullbacks, is the time to position yourself if you're not already positioned. So yes, I think that this current pullback or consolidation period is a good time to enter. I think Fabi did a great job in explaining that we're not in the mania phase, and that will occur at some point. And she talked about they're going to 2x, 3x, 4x. Well, that did happen in the third and fourth quarter of 2021. And, some of the names in the junior space especially went all, 2, 3, 4, 5x in that period of time, and they're all the way back down to where they were in 20 before that happened in 2021. So yeah, it is a good time it is a good entry point right now, I believe.
I want to talk about news coming out of Niger. The government, which is a newer government, there was a coup there for those who are unaware. They have pulled French mining company Orano's permit for the Immeraren uranium mine with an estimated 200,000 tons of uranium in the ground. So many believe this is related to Niger's devolving relations with France. The new government wants French troops out of the country. They seem to be hostile to France. I'm wondering if you think that was the main impetus behind this move, or if this could present wider risk to other companies in the region like Global Atomic and GovEx, et cetera, that this same situation could occur to them. Fabi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so this is a big question because what happens on the ground in Niger is, I think, beyond most people's, networking and knowledge. I had a great a great way of knowing what was happening on the ground before the coup, and then after the coup, it's like, okay, like who are my people on the ground? And it's absolute mayhem in that sense, right? And we don't know what is going to happen next. So obviously investors usually pull back because of the uncertainty. My way of thinking is, yes, Immeraren has been, worked on from a discovery standpoint many, many years ago. And it was due to actually come online way back, I think it was 2012, before Fukushima. They had made the decision to go ahead with it. And then after Fukushima, they stepped back, obviously, and they kept pushing the date, forward and forward. And then it just never panned out. If it's a case of the Niger junta government saying, okay, you've taken too long and not taken action on this project, we're going to pull back the permit, then that is one thing, which I think would affect GovEx, unfortunately. I love the management team. I want the company to, go ahead and actually just get the green light from the government to go ahead with their projects, because they struggled a lot to get the green light from an economics perspective. And then the moment that the economics made sense for the project, that's when the coup happened. And so the timing had not been any worse for GovEx, unfortunately. Yes, they do have other projects, and I think that it could be a massive buying opportunity because the other projects are actually probably going to pan out much better. But if it's a problem of not advancing the project, then I think GovEx is going to have an issue. Global Atomic is probably way too far advanced for them to do anything about it. So I don't see that being an issue. But if GovEx can come out of this unscathed, then I think it's a clear indication that the problem is the French. That the problem is that the junta in Niger is saying, let's take our country back. And maybe they even want to buy, some popularity points by saying that they're claiming something back with the population, that, the French aren't going to have it anymore. Then obviously that's going to be, negotiated with another country. I'm not going to get into that because who knows? Who knows if it's China or Russia, right? There aren't many options beyond that. But I think the intent behind, the Immeraren blockage, let's say, will be, I guess, revealed whether GovEx gets a go-ahead or not. And so if you're a GovEx shareholder, you are holding your breath. And if you're still holding at this point, then I wish you the very best. I don't currently hold it. And might be a buying opportunity. Who knows? Maybe they get the green light and it's off to the races, but it's very, very tough. Because I mean, once you have a project that works and it's completely out to a government that, hasn't been even voted in, how do you convince not just investors? Because, we're crazy. Like the mining investing world, we're absolutely bonkers. We invest in things that are absolutely not investable to anybody with a pulse outside of this world. But you can't convince the banks to, loan you money under such circumstances. And so that's what I worry most beyond, just getting us investors to hop on board with GoVX. So best of luck to them and to the team, and fingers crossed.
And Terry, I'd like to get your perspective, and perhaps if you could shed some light on the global atomic side of things. I spoke to Lobo Tigre, and he actually sold his global atomic as soon as the coup first happened. He said, that's enough for me. I'm not interested in that level of jurisdictional risk. We have no idea how this situation is going to develop. After the initial coup happened, when GovEx fell Global Atomic fell dramatically, it recovered all of those losses before falling once again to the position where it's at right now. What are your thoughts on this recent development of the Immerern mine being halted, the permit being revoked? And what are your thoughts on Global Atomic? Obviously, they're advancing their project. They've met with the new Minister of Mines and seem to be given the green light. Do you think there's still some risk ahead for that company?
I do, yeah. So just like Fabi said, to invest in the mining sector, you got to be a little bit local. I'm certainly that. I still hold shares in both companies. I'm sort of an optimist. I sort of think that in the end things are going to work out okay. But yeah, the risk is there. It's definitely there. And GoVX was dealt a blow when they were told that they need to begin the construction of the mine or mining by July of this year, which is basically impossible to do. So it places the company in a very tough position. Global Atomic, from what we hear, is they're still moving ahead. Plans are everything's going well. The minister visited. They're trying to nail down the financing, but the risk is still there. You just do not know what they're going to do. And unfortunately, I don't have boots on the ground in the country or an ear to the ground to know how things are going to go. So, and it's risky, and that's why both have been sold off. So, I just do not know what's going to happen, but I believe that, mining is good for the country. I think those mines need to be built. And I hope that it's Global Atomic and GoVX that are going to do it. And they're not just going to be taken over and handed to, like Fabi said, to a Russian or a Chinese company or something like that. But the risk is there. If you can stomach risk and volatility, yeah, it might be a good buying opportunity for GoVX, especially because it's been hit harder. So it's just impossible to predict what's going to happen there.
What's up, guys? Quick break. My name is Jay Martin. I'm the CEO of Cambridge House and the host of the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. I wanted to quickly point your attention to a link right beneath this video where you can subscribe to our new weekly newsletter. If you want to better understand the minds of the best investors in the resource space, subscribe to this newsletter. I author it personally every Sunday, and I love writing it. Hit that link below to subscribe. All right, back to the interview.
Yeah, and I think that's why being diversified geographically is important in the uranium space, and position sizing as well. If you're going to take that risk and buy a GovEx at this time, you probably want to do that with a smaller allocation than you have to Cameco. I found it interesting that some investors, I'm a Global Atomic investor. I didn't buy and I didn't sell. I'm of the don't just do something, stand there camp, for the most part when it comes to investing. But there was a lot of people on Twitter talking about, like, one guy was like, I sold all my energy fuels and I bought Global Atomic when this latest drop happened. I'm thinking, energy fuels just started production of uranium, and now there's been a massive amount of jurisdictional risk added to Global Atomic. I don't get what's happening here, but People want to be the hero. We'll see how that works out. I want to hone in on NexGen here because there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the company recently. The latest was their purchase of uranium at what many figured was far too high a price, with terms that were not favorable to shareholders. Their reasoning was that they weren't buying uranium as an investment to sell at a higher price in the future. They were buying it to provide some certainty to utilities they were going to make contracts with. I thought that was interesting. It didn't sound completely ridiculous, but I also didn't think it was a very convincing reason. The other things they've recently received some flack for, obviously, what many consider to be out of control G&A expenses. They've sponsored a hockey team. I think they sponsored Canucks to some extent. They sponsored a race car driving team, putting the NexGen logo on the car. And that is bizarre because, as many people pointed out, they don't have any product yet. So what are they doing with that? And Lee Courier said that was to attract a new base of shareholders. I don't know how many people see NexGen on a race car and then open their trading app and buy it. So I don't know if I buy that either. I am a NexGen shareholder, but my position is small. So I'm in the exact same position with Global Atomic, where I'm just thinking, okay, well, I'll just hold on to it. I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to buy. What are both of your thoughts on the controversy surrounding NexGen? Obviously, they have the greatest undeveloped uranium deposit in the world right now, and that kind of allows them to get away with more than a company without that would be able to. Do you think it's still worth owning NexGen, and what are your thoughts on the controversy surrounding them? Fabi, I'll start with you.
I agree with everything you said, and sort of I'm a bit puzzled as to the strategy behind the marketing of it all. I don't buy it. I think it has become the sort of bubble. So NexGen, I think the management team is partially a victim of its own success, of their own success, right? Because they discovered something that's so precious and so valuable, and they've held on to it for so long that they can get away with almost everything. But we have to remember, we just mentioned, a few minutes back that we're in a lull. We're not in the mania phase. So if a company like NexGen can survive and still raise money and also not be the stalwart of fiduciary duty towards its investors by buying, uranium at, a higher price than its competitors. I mean, just look at Denison and what they've done, with the timing of their purchases and the timing of their sales as well. Like, that has been the go-to role model of this is what you do with your limited cash, as you, I guess, honor your commitment to your shareholders. NexGen has not done that. They have just extortionate G&A expenses that would make, everybody scratch their heads and wonder if they're missing a comma or putting a comma in a different spot. And the truth is, if they have been able to do it so far, I don't think it's going to get any better, because at some point we're going to get into a mania phase where the people buying NexGen will only know the NexGen is a uranium company and the price is going up, and that's it. They're not going to go through the financials. It's like, the NVIDIA crowd that's gone into it now, and the GME crowd and all that. Like, when we get to a stage of more bullishness, people look less at the fundamentals of a particular company and even of the thesis. And so I don't agree with it. I don't own it. I've never actually owned NexGen, believe it or not. And the more that I see coming out of, the management team from a financial perspective, the less I want to own it. But this is just me being hard-headed. I still think it's a good profit opportunity, because when you look at, money flows, it goes from the chemicals of this world into the NexGens of this world, and then to the little ones. And that's inevitable. It's just how it works. There are a lot of people out there with a lot of money who are going to trade the price action and not whether, the CEO is doing something with the money that, isn't 100% what they believe in. And I'm not talking about, obviously, if it's something criminal and fraudulent, then that's a whole different matter. But what we're discussing here is just, is this the best use of money? And I absolutely think it's not. But then again, I would not bet against it under any circumstance. I would not bet against the NexGen team. And NexGen is still a good brand. If you've worked for NexGen, you take that onto your next job and, raise money on the fact that you were part of NexGen. So good on them for being able to have the discovery. But yeah, people will still make money from them or with them.
Yeah, I think those are very good points. And that's why I continue to hold NexGen as well, because I think in some senses, the fundamentals don't matter as much as with other companies. When institutional money starts to flow into the space more heavily after your Cameco's and Kazatomprom, like you said, NexGen, it's got a market cap with a size that can be reasonable for a lot of funds to invest in. And when the average retail Joe enters the space, obviously they're not looking at the fundamentals, and NexGen will be another company that could benefit from that. Terry, what are your thoughts on the debacle surrounding the company?
I agree with everything that Fabi said, and I'd just like to add a couple points. I used to own NexGen. I don't own it anymore. And yes, they can get away with it because they've got that asset, but it's a real head scratcher. I mean, why do companies advertise, put their logos on, on hockey helmets or race cars, and then that kind of thing, is so that the general public can see, and they have a product that maybe they like Red Bull, for example. You see the Red Bull logo, you want to buy Red Bull. Well, it's not like people are going to go out and buy uranium, and it's not like people are going to go out and be uranium investors. So it really gives me the sense that it's so that the management team can have the corporate box in the arena and go watch hockey games and get and the same thing with the F1 races, where they can go and just live the high life. So it just does not, the actual strategy doesn't make sense to me. The justification of it doesn't make sense to me. The purchase of uranium, yes, it's a good idea for them to buy physical uranium so that when they do get into production, they have that guarantee. They can de-risk the project and enter into contracts and say, listen, we're going to, if we're not ready by such and such a date, we're still going to have a product to deliver to you. But the timing is awful. Almost all the other companies did it when the price of uranium was around $30 a pound. They did it before SPUT came into existence, when it was still Uranium Participation Corp, and they did before it was announced that Sprott was buying Uranium Participation Corp. That's when they did it, and then before SPUT started buying uranium and pushing the price of uranium up. So the timing's bad. The strategy doesn't make sense to me. Is it a bad investment because of it? I don't think so, because of the deposit that they have. It's just unfortunate. And that's about all I have to say on that.
Yeah, and that's a good point about the logo. Yeah, usually it's a product people can buy. Being a uranium investor is like the most obscure thing you can even do at this point in time. It's not like Nvidia or something like that. People
like how many people are watching? Like, I watch hockey, obviously I'm Canadian, but how many people were watching and going, looking at the helmet on NexGen? Oh, what's NexGen? Oh, I want to know more about that company. Like, it's
yeah. Yeah, I
no,
mean,
it does not make sense.
yeah, I tell people I invest in uranium and they're just a blank look in their face. They can't even comprehend it. So for your average person watching a hockey game to start going, I'll become a uranium investor.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
next
that's not
question
going to
is
happen.
usually, are you a terrorist?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. There is some more recent news, some big M&A news in the sector, is that Paladin has announced they're moving to acquire Fission. I don't think many people saw this coming. What do you think of this, and what are the implications for the uranium industry? Do you think we'll start to see more of this M&A activity? Fabi, I'll start with you.
Absolutely, yes. I expected Fission to be bought out. I did not expect it to be Paladin. My thinking was that some major miner globally would be looking into getting into uranium, and then they could do something, whether it's with fission or buying out, I don't know, Denison. It's probably more of a camel play, who knows? And I think it's decent. I think that they're getting decent value, but the big question with this acquisition is, can they work well with the NexGen guys? That is almost the only thing that matters. Obviously, second to, can they raise the money to build everything out? Because the infrastructure capex that is going to be needed in order, to build out their flagship is going to really benefit both companies. And so if the Paladin management team is somewhat friendly with NexGen, then I guess that is the bridge that we need to have, that part of the basin fully developed. And then you're gonna have, a mining camp on the west that is just going to be a big money maker. But fission on its own, without NexGen helping it, and vice versa, and building out the infrastructure for it, would be such a missed opportunity. And I think there's going to be more of that. I do still expect some sort of consolidation in the USA. I don't think it's for now. I don't think there is quite that urge to do lots of M&A in the US, but I think it's coming. I think there's lots of really great value in that region. And just geologically, the US presents itself as, a place with a lot of uranium spread out in small little deposits. And so you'll see that there's, a few different companies with a few different deposits here and there, but nothing that is too large. And so I think that, somebody is going to come and say, okay, let's put all of these together and make, like the largest US-based uranium company. And that's most likely what I would be betting on, and not just one-offs, because who knows? You have to be an insider in order to know who's going to get bought out and when. And, you can't buy that.
Yeah, and I'm very bullish on the U.S. uranium story at present. I just think there's so many tailwinds working in its favor. Terry, your thoughts on Paladin moving to acquire fission?
Yeah, I think Fabi explained it very well. And I do expect that there's going to be more M&A activity as we move forward in this cycle. I hope, and what I would like to see is an oil company come back into the sector, come back into the space. And I think that would be extremely bullish. And I think that's still in the realm of possibilities. So I think that Fabi basically answered it fairly well.
Excellent. And when you say an oil company entering the space, do you mean to move to acquire a uranium mine? Was that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, I want to switch over to discussing some more stocks. Which uranium companies are you currently either invested in or watching for an entry point? And why do you think they present a good value proposition right now? Fabi, I'll start with you.
So I think that one of the best values that you can get right now, let's go back to the US thesis here, is Myriad Uranium. They have a team that has very low G&A, and they are sitting on a project that is expanding. I am a shareholder and I know the management team, and also I'm on the board of a company that has optioned, their flagship project, or that has optioned our flagship to them. And so it's like a co-joined combination at this moment. But I'm just checking today's price here, and it's still sitting at $7.3 million market cap. That's usually a common market cap for a pre-discovery play, and they have pounds in the ground. We know that for a fact. I think over $70 million in today's dollars has been spent on some of their projects, and they're expanding. It's the the weirdest story because it's literally information that was sitting in, a box in somebody's basement that they were holding on to, that was able to be negotiated for a very decent price, if I say so myself, in order to figure out all the work that has been done over the decades regarding, those projects. And now they're finding even more with more current exploration tools. And so you're looking at Wyoming, which is a great jurisdiction for uranium mining. You actually go to Wyoming and people are pro uranium mining, which is just bizarre. It does not happen in most other places around the world. And they want the mines to come back. They want that part of the economy to be working again. And here are, boxes and boxes of geological information that you can go back to and figure out, okay, where are the higher grade areas? Where are, some other areas that maybe weren't looked at but had good potential? And so I think you're going to be, once they can prove that up and make it compliant to today, I think you're going to see a per pound price as probably the cheapest you can find from Myriad, because they're sitting on pounds. They just don't know exactly the numbers yet, and that takes a long time to figure out for sure. But at this price, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, and Wyoming, possibly the best mining jurisdiction in the United States, one of the best in the world. Terry, what are you watching right now when it comes to stocks in the sector?
Well, as most people that know anything about uranium investing know, I'm a speculator, not an investor, and I speculate in a lot of the exploration companies, and there's not real value there until they find a deposit, and that deposit and the shares are undervalued compared to what they should be worth. So, but I think that we talked about GoVX. You can stomach the volatility, and if they can navigate through these challenges and come out on the other side of this, a winner, I think that the share price has been destroyed fairly significantly. So I think there's value there. But you talked about the U.S. I think there's value in energy fuels. When you look at their market cap, they're sitting at around 970 million market cap compared to UEC that's sitting at 2.7 billion. You just mentioned, so just right there, I think there's a huge disconnect. You mentioned the opportunities in the U.S. market, with the United States wanting to really develop their nuclear fuel production capabilities, starting from uranium to conversion to enrichment to fabrication. And you have a company in energy fuels that has just restarted producing uranium. They're the largest. They're going to be. They were historically the largest uranium producer in the United States. So they've got the mines, they've got the mill, they're producing the uranium, but they also have the rare earth element component to it, which to me, I think that's what's kind of dragging the stock down, because people don't seem to understand that it's going to be a second source of revenue. And I just don't get why people don't understand the story. But I think that they've got real upside potential in both uranium and rare earths. When you look at other companies that are in the rare earth space, that may not produce at all, do they have valuations that are higher than what Energy Fuels' valuation is? So I think that they've always been a leader in the United States. They've started producing uranium again. They're going to ramp it up as they get more and more contracts, and so I think there's value in that company.
Yeah, I agree. Energy Fuels is my largest uranium position, and I also agree that I think it's being mispriced by the market because of the rare earths aspect. People looking for a pure play uranium company are maybe not so stoked about the recent deals they've been doing when it comes to rare earths. One other notable thing is they've already sold uranium to the US government at quite a nice profit into the strategic uranium reserve. Now, that was a one-time deal, but they now have a relationship with the US government where they've done a transaction. So as we move forward and see more and more support on the political side from both parties for uranium, I think that we're going to see a revaluation of energy fuels to the upside.
And they have vanadium stockpiles, which is a
Absolutely, yes.
byproduct. So if vanadium, if the price, like we saw a spike in the price of vanadium a few years ago, if the price spikes again, then that can be another source of revenue for them. But I'm just curious. Fabi put out a question on X a few weeks back. You asked Fabi, what's your largest value play right now? And I answered energy fuels. But I'm just curious, like, if you curated the answers, what seemed to be the biggest answer from the X audience?
I haven't curated it. Energy fuels, just as a quick comment, is my most frustrating position. But it's my forever hold. I've had it for years. I don't even remember when I bought it. But it's exactly what you guys said. If you look at it as a company, it's great and probably undervalued. But people don't buy into them as a strong uranium play because they kind of didn't want, I don't think they wanted to be boxed in as a uranium play for some time now. And so the market moved accordingly. But I believe that from memory, a lot of the answers there regarding, the question that I posted on Twitter, on X, is there are two kind of clusters. One is exploration companies that are very, very risky, haven't really found anything of value yet, but have a good following. And then companies that are completely beat down, like the old, Global Atomic and GoVX and things like that. So it's usually those two. Like, nobody's going to say mega uranium. Nobody cares about mega uranium, although it's probably like one of the safest ways that you can play uranium. But nobody really cares about the stuff in the middle. It's always like, okay, so you have a lot going on, but lots of risk, or you have still to find the uranium and lots of risk. It's usually very risk appetite people that answer those questions, as Terry has answered it.
But does it make any sense that that UEC is 3 times the value of energy fuels?
UEC is always expensive, and anything Amir Adnani touches is always expensive, and I have just accepted that. That's my answer. The marketing behind that group is stronger than what I can figure out from supply and demand basis or from a value basis. And so if they build another company moving forward, and I think it's expensive as they did, and as I participated in the IPO I don't even remember what the company name is, but it's the one where they hold the royalties. I think it's Uranium Royalties or something like that.
Uranium Royalty Corporation.
Yeah, exactly. And I sold that because when I took a deeper look into what they own, I'm like, this is completely overpriced. Like, it makes no sense. And next time around, if that ever happens, I'm going to hold it because it will continue to be overpriced. And I have been able to find a hole in that business model in over 10 years. So I would just bet with it and not against it.
Great. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. It really felt like more of a conversation than an interview. People passionate about the uranium sector, riffing ideas off of each other. I love it. Before I do let you both go, where's the best place to find you online if people want to hear more from you? Terry, I'll start with you on that one.
People can direct message me on X, and usually I respond depending on what type of question they ask. Like, I'm not going to do your homework for you. Sometimes I get people to say, well, just come on, man, put in a little
what
bit
stocks do I buy?
You could click, you could search the company and find out yourself,
Yeah.
But normally I'll respond.
Great. Well, I'll put a link to your X account in the description. Fabi, you've got a lot going on. Obviously, you've got an X account as well. You've got your YouTube channel. You've got a newsletter. Talk to us about all that.
Yeah, sure. And so it's The Next Big Rush, and it's the same name across all social media platforms. And people can just go to thenextbigrush.com, sign up for the free daily newsletter. They don't like it, they can have their money back. And if you message me, I may or may not answer because I've just had a baby girl. But yeah, like Terry said, it's got to be something in half intelligent, and I'm not going to do your homework for you. But I like to meet new people that want to talk uranium. And sometimes the best way to actually get a conversation going is publicly, because you'll direct the question publicly, and before the person you're targeting has even had a chance to see it, somebody that might even be an expert in that has answered it for you. And so I encourage people to, yes, absolutely tag me on interesting things and questions and stuff like that. But if you make it public, then everybody else can actually, you know, make good use of that information. And I have learned so much more with the community of uranium investors than just by myself. That there's no comparison. So absolutely do that as, you know, a bit of homework.
Excellent. We'll put a links to all that in the description as well. Guys, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, and definitely would love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, just let us know. We'll be here.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun.